Funding for this channel is provided by viewers like you. Thank you.
I overfilled this cup. Hello! Welcome to the video. Hi, my name is Allie, and if you didn't already know, I'm bi. I didn't even come out to myself or fully understand my feelings growing up or even had my first girl kiss until my senior year of high school. So I personally have just found a lot of comfort in feeling understood within the pages of stories that feature women loving women. Now you may be thinking, but Allie, it's July! Pride Month was last month! What are we doing talking all things gay now? And to that I say, cease! Stop that right now! We all need to be reading gay stories forever. Pride Month does not ever end in this house. So, I have a super fat stack of stories featuring sapphic love. We're gonna break it into 3 categories: graphic novels, adult fiction, young adult fiction. These stories span from historical fiction to simple slices of life, from high stakes to low stakes. Within some of these, the lesbian love is the main focus of the story, but some of them have sapphic romance gently incorporated within a grander story. So, whether you're a romance reader, or maybe you can't stand the genre, I like to think that there is something for everyone in this stack. And if you have a book in mind that doesn't happen to be on this list, go ahead and leave a comment down below because I'd love to see what y'all think I should be reading next. So, let's get started. Here are some of my rapid fire recommendations for books that feature lesbian love. First, let's cover one of my absolute favorite ways to read, and that is with graphic novels. The first on the list, The Times I Knew I Was Gay by Eleanor Cruz. This is a graphic memoir that uncovers Ellie's exploration through her sexuality. From first communion to first girlfriend, this is a sweet and honest self-portrait of a young woman understanding and becoming herself. Something that I thought was handled so well in this one in particular was this idea that there oftentimes isn't this singular and grand ultimate coming out, and that in reality you're coming out for the rest of your life. Whether you're meeting new people or talking to an old friend or coworker that you haven't in a while, it never ends. There were a lot of recognizable beats in her story that I noticed were beating in my own story. I think this is a very accessible book to anybody on the LGBTQ+ spectrum, seeing as it will ring relatable to just anyone who has taken the time to discover their truth. Next, Stone Fruit by Lee Lai. The back of this book says, a debut graphic novel that paints a compassionate and unflinching portrait of the love shared among 3 women and the child they all adore. This is a beau-hued tale that follows the lives of Braun and Ray, a queer couple who enjoy their role as being aunties to Ray's 6-year-old niece, Nessie. And while we are indeed flies on the wall to the lives of these 2 people, it's so much more than just a love story, as it delves into gender identity, complicated family ties, lack of acceptance, as well as crucial and powerful themes surrounding mental health. I read this one over a year ago, and there's still a quote within it that resonates to me to this day, and it simply states, you don't have to be fun, magical Auntie Ray, you just have to show up. And I just love that. While this book does have queer couple representation, I still recommend it if you're not a huge romance reader, because I feel like we just explore a lot more profound concepts in this book that can be beneficial to anybody. So the next 2 books are by the same author, but they have such different flavors, I had to include both, and that creator is none other than Tilly Walden. I'd like to discuss Spinning by Walden first, as it's also a graphic memoir. Now, this one not only left me feeling seen in the sense of coming to terms with your sexuality before you even have the vocabulary for it yet, but it also left me feeling inspired to commit to an activity. We follow Tilly throughout mostly her middle and high school years as she commits the majority of her time to competitive figure skating. She wakes up at 4 a.m. every morning before school in order to attend practice, and then attends another practice once school is let out. Spinning illustrates literally that while communities may have their own home-like sense of belonging to them, it can also contain certain aspects that make us feel even more so isolated. And with that, it investigates how complicated these communities can make self-identification, self-acceptance, self-understanding. So while reading about her putting all of her time and love and energy into figure skating made me want to put all my time and love and energy into something, it also had me reflecting on the communities that I have chosen throughout my life and how that might have changed how I perceived myself. Overall, this is a quiet story about coming into your own, and I really appreciated reading it. The next one is also by Walden, but this time it's a sci-fi space adventure, and it is called On a Sunbeam. The story takes place in a distant future and follows Mia, who's a new recruit to a spaceship. Her and her colleague's job is to travel across planets and restore human artifacts and landmarks that have been destroyed. We bounce between Mia's present in befriending her new colorful crew and also her past experience in a boarding school. Eventually, it becomes revealed to us readers that Mia actually joined this crew in order to find her girlfriend who was lost in space that she never got to say goodbye to. This is an adventurous yet slow story that contains strong found family, concise characters, clear stakes, and artwork that is quite literally out of this world. world. This is a top tier graphic novel, and I think even romance haters can easily fall into this expedition. So that's it for graphic novels. Now I would like to dive into the next category, which is simply adult fiction. Let's start with She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. Online, this book is described as Mulan meets the Song of Achilles, as it is a historical fiction fantasy about war and destiny set in an epic alternate China. Our protagonist, an unnamed daughter, claims her dead brother's identity as her own as she's propelled by an unparalleled drive to survive. I personally may have struggled with the many events and characters that took place within this book, but I think that's just because I tend to struggle with fantasy. However, if you are a fantasy pro, I think this book could be for you. I absolutely loved our protagonist, now named Zhu, and my favorite themes were those surrounding gender identity. I would also say that this is a book for you if you're not a big romance reader, because this is more so a story about survival, war, and action that just so happens to have a sapphic relationship briefly within it. So if you're a fantasy fan, you're looking for some lesbian representation, definitely pick this book up. A lot of people really love it. Up next we have Under the Udala Trees by Chinelo Okparanta. This takes place in Nigeria during their civil war in the mid-1900s. Our protagonist Ijoma is coming of age as her nation does. Through her growth, she falls in love with another displaced girl who just so happens to be a part of a rivaling community. So not only are they forbidden to be in love because gay relationships are not condoned within Nigeria, but also the cultural clash from where they're both from hardly accepts a friendship between the two of them. Within this parfait of prejudice, we follow Ijoma from childhood to adulthood while she struggles to come to terms with who she is, all while being surrounded by a lot of hate. I'd say this book falls right in the middle of romance being the prevailing essence of the book. It's more about identity or sexuality and history as it is about one love story. It's just about Ijoma coming into her own, and I thought it was so well written and just very powerfully unlike your typical storyline. And despite its harder themes, I felt that it really provided a shimmer of hope all throughout. If this book isn't on your radar yet, please put it on there because it is so educational and so impressive. Next, we have Milk Fed by Melissa Broder. You often see this book online being considered as one of the unhinged women reads, which it definitely is. It's a literary fiction, which means that there really is no plot or stakes or story arc. It's very character driven. It follows Rachel, who's in her early 20s and struggling with food restriction and calorie counting. We get a peek into her rituals until they are put to an abrupt halt by Miriam, a counter girl at a frozen yogurt shop. What unfolds is a meditation between love and food, and I really don't know how Broder did it. Don't know what it is about this book, but I cared from start to finish. It's a character study, so it really doesn't fall under the qualifications of a page turner, but somehow I kept turning the pages effortlessly. It celebrates the grimier realms of our psyche while somehow being both twisted and extremely mundane. It's a slice of life between two women. I can't put into words how this one got me the way it did, but it just did. I was so impressed that I picked up Broder's other book where a woman has sex with a fish, so that should tell you something, maybe. Up next, In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This one is actually a memoir that follows Machado's experience in an abusive same-sex relationship. It was very artistically told and even includes citations on how folk tales and society-built perceptions have shaped how we perceive same-sex relationship or same-sex abuse and how that's often overlooked. It's so candid and inventive from start to finish. There was even a point in this book where there was a choose-your-own-adventure component incorporated, which really showed how challenging domestic abuse is to navigate and escape from. If you think you can handle the content warnings and the darker themes of this book, I highly recommend it because I think it's revolutionary and endlessly impactful. This is a painful reminder that abuse is not black and white or clear cut. Most of the books in this video are on the joyous side of things. I think it's super important to read about and experience queer love, joy, and happiness, but also I think it's equally important to remember that anybody can hurt you, which is why this book is on the list. And the last adult book I have for you today is One Last Stop by Casey McKiston. This is the second standalone from the author that brought us Red, White, and Royal Blue, and within it we follow August, who very cynically moves to New York in complete denial that love and magic exist. She shares an apartment with multiple roommates and begins waitressing at a local diner when her daily commute becomes an electrical experience, because on the train she meets a charming and beautiful woman named Jane, but something is a bit off about Jane. She's literally from the 1970s, can't leave the train car, nor can she remember her life before she entered the train car. Now this book is definitely one of the books in the stack that are more romance heavy. The stakes are simply how can August and Jane be together. However, this is one of the very few romance books where I felt there was so much meat to the B stories, but also the sprinkle of sci-fi, time travel-y elements really elevated it beyond your typical love story, in my opinion. It was just such a well done and complete story with complete characters. I had just as much fun in the romance realm of things as I did in August's mundane day-to-day. Her roommates were just as delightful as everyone says they are, and so in my opinion this one deserves all the hype that it has. It's such a fun and fresh spin on your typical love story, so if you've been putting off picking this one up, put it off no longer and have some fun. Side note, who knew Subways could be so spicy? Not me. So now let us enter together in the final category, which is young adult fiction. There are 6 books in this category, the first one being You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This is a YA contemporary story that follows our protagonist Liv, who has always believed that she is too black, too poor, and too awkward to thrive in her small Midwestern town. But she has a plan chock full of big dreams in order to get out of Indiana forever. Go to college, play in an orchestra, and become a doctor. However, when the financial aid that she is counting on doesn't work out, she needs to get creative to see these dreams through. Luckily, there is a scholarship available to anyone who wins Prom King and Queen. Not so luckily, a girl named Mac is also in the running, and Liz may or may not have a crush on her. Now, this was a very sweet story, but I will preface that this is for a much younger audience, in my opinion, which is why I'm putting it first. It takes place exclusively in high school and really makes you feel like you're in high school when you're reading it. This is what had me struggling to connect with it on my first read. But if you're in high school, maybe even college, or maybe YA is just your favorite genre, I feel like this book is perfect for you. What I was able to connect with were the socioeconomic themes that surround the many hoops that some of us had to jump through in order to further our education. But also, it was cute, it was fun, it was gay, and you cannot go wrong with it in the end. Next, The Grief Keeper by Alexandra Villasanti. This is a YA contemporary with sci-fi elements, and within it, our 17-year-old protagonist Marisol and her young sister flee their dangerous lives in El Salvador to seek refuge in the United States. As readers, we get the impression that there is something missing in Marisol's story, and later we find out that she is gay, and that's what put her and her family in a precarious situation in their home country. However, when they're informed at the detention center that their asylum request will most likely be denied, Marisol accepts a strange opportunity to keep her and her sister safe. She is asked to become a grief keeper, which means that the trauma of another person will be transferred to her body to relieve the PTSD symptoms from that other person. This is where the subtle sci-fi elements are held, with healthcare advancements that allow for grief to flow between bodies. I am genuinely shocked as to why this book doesn't have more hype. This book encapsulates super important representation of immigration, the sacrifices one has to take to cross the border, the sacrifices one has to make to survive. The idea of less privileged people having to bear the weight and burdens of more privileged people is just so spot on. This is a book that I can highly recommend if you loved Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour, seeing as trauma and grief are so well handled within both of these books. Despite all the heavy and difficult to read topics that are covered, the relationships between the characters within this act as a guiding light through all the pain, reminding us that the connections that we have to others is what will get us through anything. I am shocked that this book is so slept on. I hope more people pick this one up. Next, She Gets the Girl by Rachel Lippincott and Allison Derrick. This book is written by a married couple and they are so cute, so of course this book is so cute. This follows 2 girls as they enter their first year of university. Alex is the headstrong social butterfly that just got out of a relationship but is hoping to get back together with her ex, and Molly is on the shyer side. Her mom is her best friend and she's never gotten past the crush stage with anyone before. Alex thinks that she can show her ex that she's a helpful and love-worthy person deserving a second chance if she can show her that she is the reason that Molly got together with her crush. So Alex comes up with a list of ways for Molly to get the girl. This one really felt like a teen rom-com movie. It was light, it was playful, the stakes were there from the very beginning. But what made this one stand out for me was the careful balance between the love plotline and dabbling in deeper themes. I particularly resonated with Alex's requirements of balancing school, holding down a job, while managing familial complications, all while seeing her peers not have to balance so much at once. It definitely did not need this class commentary in order for it to be strong, but I really appreciated that along this fun and flirty ride, we dipped our toes into serious places as well. This one gave me butterflies, it was a fast read, and it felt like a teen movie. So if you're looking for a feel-good book with sapphic love, here it is. Next, we have The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School by Sonora Reyes. This is Reyes' debut, and damn, did they knock it out of the park. The story follows Yamale, a queer Mexican-American girl, trying her best to navigate her mostly white new Catholic school. This book covered so much ground while not ever feeling too heavy or stuffed with too much, which I feel like is just so difficult to balance. It did not bite off more than it could chew. It bit off such a big bite that made me think that perhaps it would choke, and swallowed it all down. Somehow we navigate the waters of racism, homophobia, socioeconomic struggles and challenges, mental health, public outings, the complications that unfold when you have a deported family member, all in one beautiful story. And so naturally, all of these elements really make Yami and her brother feel quite isolated, and so they feel that having a fresh start and a new school will provide a welcome change of pace. Following an unexpected public outing, Yami is asking herself, what would a straight girl do? And attempts to blend in with her new surroundings. But she falls hard for the other openly queer girl at her school. This is a powerful story that somehow manages to remain mostly light while juggling all of its darker elements. I was so beyond impressed with this one. I hope you all give it a chance, even if romance or YA are not typically your thing, because it's so well done. Up next is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a YA contemporary fiction that is written in verse, which means that every page is a poem. This is a story about how a plane crash connects two girls' lives from the Dominican Republic to New York City. Our author Acevedo was actually inspired by a real plane crash that took place in 2001, in which 90% of its victims were Dominican. This sent chills down my spine to read when reading the afterword after finishing the story. This is another one that I would recommend if romance is not typically your cup of tea, because the lesbian love is really just a quiet element present in the background, as this story is more so about bittersweet family connections, the devastation that follows loss and grief that comes alongside that, girl power, and the importance of community to get through tough times. And seeing how the story is structured and how few words there are per page, this makes for a very low pressure yet still powerful and speedy read. If you want strong character ties but also beautiful cultural bites, definitely pick this one up. And the last book of the stack of 15 is The Henna by Adiba Jagirdar. This is a YA rom-com about two teenage girls, Nishat and Flavia, who both have rival henna businesses under the same high school roof. Now Nishat is Muslim, so when she comes out to her family they tell her that she can be whoever she wants as long as it isn't herself. So this one is very sweet, but navigates some complicated waters such as sexuality meeting religion, family pressures and lack of acceptance, as well as cultural appropriation, public outing, and racism. But all of this is handled so carefully without being spoon-fed to the readers. This is a sweet and soft sapphic story and the perfect combination of cheesy and realistic. I know there's another book by this author called Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating, and I really want to get my hands on it. Lego hands. Because I was impressed with this one so much. So if you've read the other one, please let me know. Get me hyped, because I'm already so psyched. Let's end the video with some superlatives. My favorite graphic novel was Honest Zombie by Tilly Walden. I just think that this is such a powerful and adventurous story while somehow maintaining a quiet and subtle atmosphere. Plus the art is out of this world. I think anyone could enjoy this. I really do. I'm copping out on my favorite adult. I am a little bit, because I really loved the educational and cultural components of Under the Udala Trees. This one is just so important. But then also, I really loved the approach that Machado took for their memoir In the Dream House, especially seeing how overlooked sapphic abuse is. This one is also so important, but then when it comes to just being flat out happy, One Last Stop really hits that mark. So it's one of those three. I'm sorry, I'm cheating a little bit, but one of those three is my favorite adult sapphic book. And then my favorite YA is The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. I just feel like this balanced dark moments and pure happiness just so effortlessly, and I love books that make me feel it all. Okay, my camera is somehow dying, so let's go super fast. If you are now inspired to read a book about women loving women, you are in so much luck, because in July of 2022, the Summer Splash Readathon has a buddy read of Casey McKiston's new release, I Kissed Shara Wheeler. If you're looking to read with a group of fun folks, there's a temporary Discord in the description box down below. The Readathon's hosted by none other than Sally Timms. Everything's down below. But also, if you're looking to join a more long-term book club or a community, you can join the Pocket Pages Book Club, which is linked through my Patreon, which is down below. It's $1 a month, and depending on which tier you join, there are even matching printable bookmarks for each book that we read together. We read something new within the first 3 weeks of every month, and then discuss in a temporary Discord server during the last week of every month. You don't have to be available for any live streams or anything like that. There's no way to miss out on the discussion. Join us if you like. We are reading Betty in the month of July. It's because of Patreon that I'm able to upload as frequently as I do, and it allows me to put all of my love, time, and energy into each video. So I seriously appreciate everyone who has joined and stuck around. I'm so endlessly grateful for the community that we've made together. Truly, the Discord is my happy place. This entire corner of the internet is my happy place, and it wouldn't be what it is without y'all. So thank you so much for making it what it is. Thank you for sponsoring this channel each and every day, and as always, thank you for clicking, thank you for caring, and thank you for being nice. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!